case you missed my last video, I have read a lot of books this year. I'm currently reading my am I reading my 100th or 99th book? I think my 100th book. I'm currently on my 100th book for this year, and it's August. So since I just started my YouTube channel, I've decided to go back and do some videos on each month and just call it like catch-up videos to kind of catch up with my year. So I'm just going to do a quick little review of the books that I've read for the month, and then just give a quick little review of like how I felt about it, and then that'll be it, I guess. Like I said in my previous video, I'm still relatively new to YouTube, and so hopefully I will get a little more comfortable and everything. But do not come to my channel thinking I'm going to have some of these beautifully aesthetic videos that have tons of editing, because I'll be lucky if I can put a picture of a book right here. I'm technologically savvy, but I also have 2 very young children and do not have the time to figure all that out. So we'll be good to get some flubs edited out and a picture right here. All right, so I have notes. And so February of 2024, I read a total of 17 books. I gave 5 of them 5 stars, 6 of them 4 stars, 4 3 stars, and 2 2 stars. I DNF'd 1 book, and it was a psalm for the wild built, and it was the first book in the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers. I started reading it and immediately didn't like it. That doesn't mean I won't go back to it someday. It's just it wasn't like catching me right away. So I was like, you know what? I've got a ton of other books that I want to read. So clearly I read a whole lot of books that month, 17 books. That's a lot. And so I put it away for now. Maybe one day I'll get back to it. I've heard it's great. It wasn't catching me the day that I started listening to it. So I went on to the next one. So, okay, of the 17 books, let's start with the first book that I read. The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. It's an 11-hour and 6-minute book. The audio narrator was Imogen, which I love that name, Imogen. Imogen Church. And I don't remember if I liked her narration or not. I can't remember. I didn't start like keeping tabs on that until like a few months later, and then I couldn't remember if I liked them or not. I gave this a 3-star rating. It wasn't a bad story. It's a decent story. And there's stuff that I keep thinking about from it. So if I was to reread it, I might give it a higher score. I might give it like a 3.5, possibly a 4. I don't know. It's a thriller. I'm not a big fan of thrillers. So it wasn't terrible though. You know, if you're into thrillers, I'd read it. You might love it. Then I read The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and it is 10 hours and 22 minutes long. It had several narrators. It had Jot Davies, Chloe Massey, Olivia Dowd. Ooh, I can't pronounce this name. Oh, I can't pronounce his name. Oifi? Oh my goodness, it's probably like Scottish or something, or Irish, and I can't. Anyway, McMahon, Sarah Ovens, and Rich Keeble. And as far as, I also have been trying to keep track of whether there is a movie or a TV adaptation. And both for The Woman in Cabin 10 and The Guest List, there are plans. Who knows if there's, like, the rights have been sold, so we'll see. I gave The Guest List 2. I remember hating that book. So I probably could have given it a lower rating if I were to reread it again, because I've thought about that book several times over the last few months, and every time I'm like, oh, I hated that book. So it may have been a 1-star really for me. Again, it's a thriller. I didn't like it. I know a lot of people really like it. I have a lot of, what do they call it? Unpopular opinions on a lot of books. And not my pan, not my thing, you know. Okay, then I read Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. Technically, it's in a series of The London Below, and it's the first book, but he's not, as far as I could find out, he has not continued that series. I think he's got like a partial short story or something, but it's never really progressed from there. I think it was more of a, I don't know. Anyway, it's 13 hours and 48 minutes long. My husband has always really enjoyed Neil Gaiman books. I know there's some scandal about him that I have just barely heard little bits about lately, and from what I've heard, I'm not very happy. But I will say, you know, some of his writing is very interesting, and you know, if there's another author out there that you can recommend that's similar to him, I'd like to give it a try. Not Stephen King. Stephen King is okay, and I have enjoyed some of his books in the past. I don't know if I've ever completely read a book or a series by him. I think I've read one of his short story books. But he's just not my thing. I can see his talent. For sure, he's got talent. And his creativity is mind-blowing, but just not my thing. Anyway, Neverwhere. Neil Gaiman narrated it, and of course he did a fantastic job. And there is apparently a TV show. I have never seen it. It was done many years ago, apparently. But if you've seen it, I would love to hear what you thought about it. It didn't look that great, but I would be very interesting. Neverwhere was a very interesting story. I enjoyed it. My husband also read it. We kind of read it together. And I gave it a 4 star. So there was stuff I didn't like about it, but for the most part, I loved the creativity of it. Then I read The Doctors Blackwell, How Two Pioneering Sisters Brought Medicine to Women and Women to Medicine. It's about 2 sisters, the Blackwell sisters, who really made roads for women in medicine. It's by Janice Nimura. It is 11 hours and 24 minutes long. Laurel Mellington did the narration, and I cannot remember how I felt about her. As far as I know, there's no adaptation coming for it. I gave it a 3. It did not grab me as much as I thought it would be. I love history. I love memoirs. I love science. I read a lot of like science books and nonfiction stuff. So I thought I would like it a lot because I'm really starting to kind of want to see how women have paved the way for women today. And they made a big dent for women, and I don't know. The storytelling itself just didn't grab me. Some people probably would love it. It just wasn't, at least for those couple of days, not my thing. Then I read Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. It's 10 hours and 54 minutes long. Stephanie Racine was the audio narrator, and I think I really liked her. I didn't put on here whether I liked her or not, but from what I remember, I liked her. As far as I know, there's no adaptation coming, but there should be. I really liked this book. I gave it a 5 star. I might have gone, if I were to read it again, I'd probably give it a 4.5 star. I really liked it. If you like Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, I think you would like this book. I thought it was fantastic. I guessed one of the big things relatively early on in the book, like very early on. And I was like, I bet this is going to happen, and that's what happened. But I tend to usually figure some of these out. But my sister's really good at figuring out stories. Anyway, so I really liked it. Then I read I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. It's 8 hours and 20 minutes long. Scott Brick did the narration, and from what I remember, he did a good job. I have not seen the movie, but it's on my list to see. And I gave it a 4 star. I thought it was a very interesting, and there were times where I completely zoned out and don't remember anything about it. Hold on. Let's see, what was I talking about? iRobot. Yeah, so there were times that my mind kind of wandered, and and I don't really remember what was happening at that point. But for the most part, especially the ending, I really liked. So, then I read The Secret of Chimneys. It's the first in the Superintendent Battle series by Agatha Christie. It was 7 hours and 50 minutes, and Hugh Fraser did the narration. I have not, as far as I know, I have never seen the TV/film adaptation for that. So it's on my list. I gave it 4 stars. I also remember kind of zoning out at some point, and I cannot tell you pretty much anything about that story. So I might need to reread it. I think I remember rocking a little girl while reading that. So I don't know. Then I read An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good. It's the first in the Elderly Lady series by Helen Tursten. It was narrated by Susan Torrin. It was 3 hours and 12 minutes long. As far as I know, there's no film adaptation to it. And I did not like this book at all. I know a lot of people like it. I had so much hopes for it. I like the title. It sounds so interesting. An Elderly Lady Up to No Good. That sounds great. The cover was cute. It was like a cross-stitch needlepoint thing, and it seemed great. I hated it so much. I'm not even going to talk about it. Did not like it. I probably would have given it a 1 star. You need to stay out of my plants. Stop digging in my plants. Then I read The Monogram Murders. It is the new Hercule Poirot mysteries. It is heavily based on Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot. I never say it right. Anyway, but it is not by Agatha Christie. It is by Sophie Hannah. And it was narrated by Julian Rindtut. As far as I know, it looks like there might be plans to turn this into a film or a TV show. It was 11 hours and 13 minutes long, and I gave it 4 stars. I remember this one, and I thought it was really good. It was very much the same feel as Agatha Christie. She did a fantastic job of giving that feel. Now, how do I feel about her taking the character and continuing it? I have different feelings on it, and I don't know how I feel about it. But I thought she did a great job. So, then I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. It was read by Carrie Mulligan. It's 8 hours and 50 minutes long. It looks like there might be plans to turn this into a film. I gave this book 5 stars. I know a lot of people really don't like this book. I thought it was fantastic, to the point that I was like, I think I might buy this. And then my mother-in-law bought it for me. So, because she saw that I was thinking about getting it. Anyway, I really liked it. It deals with regrets that you've made with choices, and what would your life have looked like if you made different choices, and how to appreciate the life you have. I love my life. I am glad I didn't make decisions to get into a different place in my life than I am now. Having said that, I have wondered what my life would have looked like if I had made different decisions. Anyway, it's a multiverse story, so if you're into that, you might like it. Then I read the first book in the Thursday Murder Club, and by Richard Osman. It's 12 hours and 26 minutes long. Leslie Manville did the narration. Fantastic job. The TV show's coming. It's coming very soon. And the people that they have chosen to play the characters, I'm just so excited about. And I gave this book 5 stars. I think I've read the first 2. I don't think I've read the third one. Oh, no, because I'm waiting on the third one. My Libby, I have it on, I don't know. It's taking forever. But I've loved both of them. I love this series so much. I've gotten my sister and my mom into reading them as well. And 5 stars. without a doubt. Then I read A Gentleman in Moscow. And at this point, I thought The Midnight Library was going to be my favorite book for that month. Then I read A Gentleman in Moscow, and I was like, holy cow, no, this is definitely the book of the month. And in a minute, I read another book that, I don't know, I've got so many books on this particular month that I could not decide what my book of the month was. Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles? Yeah, sure. Nicholas Smith read it, and he did a fantastic job. It is 17 hours and 52 minutes long. It feels very long, at least in the very beginning and middle. I gave it 5 stars. Like I said, I thought this was going to be possibly the best book of the year. And it was. I loved it. It was very slow getting into it. I didn't think I was going to like it. But then once it picked up, I ended up just falling in love with the book. And there is a movie, and I haven't seen it yet, or TV show, and I am dying to see it. Then I read The Left-Handed Booksellers of London. It's the first book in the Left-Handed Booksellers of London series by Garth Nix. It is narrated by Marissa Kalin. As far as I know, there's no adaptation coming. It is 11 hours and 15 minutes long. I gave it 3 stars. I did not and do not plan to read the second book. It wasn't my thing. It was okay. I felt like there was like no character development whatsoever, and I don't like that. So, then I read Divine Rivals, Letters of Enchantment, Book 1 by Rebecca Ross. This was another book for the book club, my neighborhood book club that I'm in. Alex Wingfield and Rebecca Norfolk were the narrators. I thought they did a good job. I don't think there's any plans to make a film, but I've seen a lot of people really like this book, and it's getting kind of popular, and I would be kind of surprised if they didn't try to make a movie out of it. It's 10 hours and 50 minutes long. Now, I gave it 4 stars. When I think back on this book, I think, I didn't like it. But then I think longer, and I'm like, well, you know what? It wasn't terrible. So I probably would give it 3.5 stars right now. I've heard the second book is terrible, so I haven't read it, but maybe I will. I don't know. The idea of it was good. I liked a lot of it. I just would really be interested in more world. I want this to be a longer series to talk about everything in the world. I want them to really discuss some of the magic in this world. I want them to explain who these monsters are a little better. Anyway, our book club was very torn. Some people really, really loved the book, and some people really did not. So I was kind of right in the middle. Then I read The Woman Who Split the Atom, The Life of Lise Meitner. It's a physics book. Well, it's a history biography about a physicist. Marissa Moss wrote the book. Sandy Rustin narrated it. It's 4 hours and 27 minutes long, and I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. I want to read more about this woman. I thought she was very fascinating. Then I read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. 8 hours and 35 minutes long. Dan Stevens did the narration. I mean, I've seen a lot of Frankenstein adaptations, so, you know. Oh, no. I gave it 3 stars. When I first read it, I was like, this book sucks. Everybody in here is awful. Oh, no. I think I would like it a lot better if I had sat in a literary class and discussed it. But as far as just like reading a book, not my thing. Then I read the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society book by Marianne Schaefer. It was 8 hours and 6 minutes long. There were several narrators. Paul Bomer Susan Durden, Rosalind Landor, John Lee, and Juliet Mills. And fantastic. I gave it a 5-star. This was the third book that I thought would be like the best book of the month. I couldn't decide between The Midnight Library, A Gentleman in Moscow, or The Guernsey Literary and Potato Pie Society. I think of those, I would drop The Midnight Library first, but it's really hard for me to decide between Gentleman in Moscow and Guernsey Literary because it's so good. Anyway, again, it's a romance, and this is the type of romance. Like, it's so good. It's so sweet. My dad was the Guernsey Literary Potato Pie Society. So my dad was such a romantic. He loved stories like that. He loved Hallmark Christmas movies. That was his thing. He loved like thrillers as well and sci-fi, but he really loved those kind of stories. And I remember a few years ago, we went to visit them, and he was like, you got to watch this movie. You got to watch this movie. I'm like, okay, great. It's another one of your romance stories. Okay, show us the movie. And it was so good. Well, it was this. I didn't know it was based on a book. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to read the book. Oh, so good. I need to rewatch the movie. It was just so good. I can't say enough goodness about it. The last book that I read for February was Agatha Christie's Cards on the Table, the 15th book in the Hercule Poirot series. I'm not reading these in order. I should. I like to read things in order. But I can't remember why I read this. I was reading all these books for the 52 book club challenge. And I know it was for that some prompt on that. So anyway, it was 6 hours long. Hugh Fraser did the voice or the narration. I have not seen the TV adaptation for this. I gave it 4 stars. I remember a lot about it, and I liked it. I can't really remember who ended up doing the crime, but I do remember enjoying the book. So that was February. Yeah, 17 books. That for somebody who hasn't finished but maybe one book in the last 4 years, well, until last year, 17 books. For years I've had 10 to 12 books as my goal, and I blew that out of the water in 1 month. So I'm not trying to say good on me. I'm just saying I appreciate audiobooks so much. Anyway, thank you. Check back for March.